Hey everybody, it's Mike from the Mike Wagner Show, powered by SoundWeb Studios. Visit online at soundwebstudios.com for all your needs. Looking at a professional website without breaking your budget, SoundWeb Studios is the answer. SoundWeb Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs that blow the competition away. Call today, 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960, or email to support at soundwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show, get 20% off your first project. Sonic Web Studios, take your image to the next level. Also, time to give a special shout out to our official sponsor of the Mike Wagner Show, international warring author Mian Molson Zia. If you love fast-paced mysteries, you'll love Missing by Mian Molson Zia, available on Amazon in paperback and ebook. Missing is fast-paced and intriguing with an unforgettable twist. Takes place in 4 countries, 2 strangers, 1 target, where truth is an illusion and those you love be the first to go missing. It's available on Amazon in paperback and ebook. Missing by Me and Molson Zia has garnered great reviews and even loved and enjoyed by Hollywood celebrities, including Joanna Cassidy, Forbes Riley, and many others. So grab your copy today for Goes Missing by Me and Molson Zia, available on Amazon. Also, the Mike Wagner Show can be heard on the MikeWagnerShow.com. You can check our Facebook page at facebook.com/the Mike Wagner Show. You can download and listen on Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Also on Anchor FM, iTunes, Google Play, Amazon, Audible, and Apple. Coming soon to Podbean, Buzzsprout, Pandora, and TuneIn, and heard worldwide on Geo 7, Radioholic, Himalaya, and more. Take the Mike Wagner Show on any mobile device. Subscribe to the Mike Wagner Show on the YouTube channel, and follow the Mike Wagner Show on Instagram and Twitter today. And for great gift ideas, including t-shirts, pop sockets, hoodies, throw pillows, tote bags, and more, go to Amazon.com and check out the Mike Wagner Show podcast. And for more great gift ideas, including great books by me and Molson Zia, along with some t-shirts and hoodies and more, go to Amazon.com and check out the Me and Molson Zia store for great books like Missing, Once, and Wrinkles, and more. And don't forget to support the Mike Wagner Show on the MikeWagnerShow.com, also on Anchor FM, as well as PayPal. Make sure you do so today. We're here with a terrific gentleman who is an Italian-American bass player, producer, and a music consultant. He was born in Milan, Italy, and then hopped over to New York City in 1990, then LA in 96, and played with several Italian bands, and also with Conspiracy, also Steve Vai, Steve Lukather, also George Clinton in Parliament, Funkadelic, and more, and also serve as a U.S. representative in the division and A&R association with East West, Warner Italy, Self Spa, EMI Italy, and a lot more. And I mean, just an amazing guy to talk to. Live, ladies and gentlemen, from the Plus Studios in beautiful sunny Valencia, California, the very, very multi-talented and the very amazing Fabrizio Grossi. Fab, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thanks for joining us today.
Hey, Mike, how's it going, man? Thank you for having me.
Hey, we're doing great as well too. So basically, you've been doing this for quite a while too, and basically, yes, you're Italian American bassist, producer, and music consultant. You're born in Milan, Italy. You played teenager. You played with a number of Italian bands, and you also serve as U.S. representative, developer, and A&R associate for a number of European and Latin American record and entertainment companies. And you relocated to Los Angeles in '96, and you worked with a number of people like Steve Vai and also Red Hot Chili Peppers, and did some work too, like with Fire Garden and more. And you also work with East West Italy, and you basically did just a lot of things. And before getting to all that, and of course, you can talk about your upcoming projects. Tell us how I first got started.
Which side of it?
Think about going back in the way back machine. So just do a little way back. It's like how you got started.
Okay, well, I guess I started off as a musician, of course. I mean, and I still am. All the other things that you said are like, I guess came into the picture because of my position, or I guess my location or my dealing with other musicians and entities. It was never, it's never really, I'm not really cut for like an office gig. I mean, I did,
who is these days because of the pandemic?
Plenty.
Who really is? Yes.
Plenty, trust me. I mean, office meaning being, desk and all of it. At the end of the day, that's always what I do, but I do it for my own project and for the artist that I'm working with. Mainly the whole thing started off with me wanting to become a professional musician. And that it's like, goes back from a long time. I mean, my family is not really like an artistic family, meaning they were not musicians. So it's not that this is like I'm continuing the family tradition, no whatsoever. But there was always a lot of music played around the house when I was growing up. Italy's never really been a rock and roll country in that sense, but there was a lot of good music played on the radio. And for the majority, actually, was black music from the 60s and the 70s, believe it or not. I mean, I had to go crazy to find, an Iron Maiden record, but I could listen to James Brown and Earth, Wind and Fire all day on the radio, whatever that means,
yes.
which actually is actually what makes me tick. And, it's always been my first love, and, it is always there. I mean, even though I ended up in having, I would say, part of my career very attached to rock music, and that's always attached. I'm always been attached to rock music, because rock, blues, and all that, they're coming down from the same tree, I guess. But I had a couple of spans in the heavier side of rock, on the metal side of rock. And even though I dealt with all these different, I would say, genre or subgenre, I always had an attachment when it comes down to the music that I like. Exactly, to those kind of artists, Sly and the Family Stone, George Clinton and the P-Funk, and Jimi Hendrix and Stevie Wonder, Muddy Waters, anything that, I mean, it's like all derivatives from the blues at the end of the day, probably because I guess for age reasons and geographic reasons, I was not raised exposed to all these things, in a proper way, like a lot of folks do here in the United States. But it was kind of like either like all at once or throughout the year, and not necessarily in the right order. So I guess because of this reason, I probably feel closer to soul music and Motown. And it's not even Motown, probably soul and funk and R&B, and the kind of like blues that bleeds a lot into rock more than the blues that stays quiet and leads into jazz. But at the end of the day, if it's good music, I like it, no matter what. But anyways, just going back to that, my first idol when I was little, a few things happened. And I remember, even though I was just 4 years old, we had a big TV show on every Saturday night on TV. It was in black and white. My mom used to watch it. And they had music guests every week. And that particular week, there was James Brown. That was the first time that he performed in Italy and for the Italian TV. Was like early 70s, not mid 70s. And a band was insane. I found out later that Bootsy Collins was on bass, and it was just like, I saw that thing in TV and I was like shocked. And and for the following weeks, I was always waiting and hoping that guy will come back and sing, because I was just like so. And actually, I got another treat, because after a few weeks or after a month, I mean, you have to forgive me, it's been a long time ago, Tina Turner shows up with her band.
Oh my gosh.
So after these two, I mean, it was just like, bam, bam, it's just like punch, 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 and then an uppercut, So those were like a big thing that, kind of like immediately got me to recognize the sounds, even though I did not know anything, I didn't play anything, and I was too very little. But kind of like when the music goes that way, that's the kind of stuff that I like. Immediately after that was Bob Marley, which is remains my one of my big loves when it comes down to music and inspiration, not only for music itself but also for lyric contents and for everything, social work and everything that the guy did. And together with that, actually I would say the first guitar player that I was really exposed to was Carlos Santana. Carlos back then, the famous song Europa, as we call him over there. It was played insanely over the radio stations, and my mom really liked it, and we ended up buying a couple of records. The thing with Santana is that up to the moment, wasn't Santana being the only. I have an eye thing that's why I need to keep the glasses on.
No, it's perfectly okay. I mean.
No, it's just because of the light. I'm very sensible to the light, and I'm
understandable.
Been doing drops and stuff, and it's really bugging me after a while. And I've been in front of the screen too long today.
Don't worry, we'll keep it short. Don't worry about it. We're having fun. Don't worry.
No, it's okay. It's okay. And basically, everyone. I mean, even Bob Marley played guitar, if you think about it. But Santana was like really being promoted as a guitar player. I mean, they really put an effort in making sure people understood that this guy was a guitar player. So that was for me. I was just like, a guitar. Oh, that's what the guy's playing. Of course, I knew what the guitar looked like, but never really bothered to pick one up and started playing. Well, fast forwarding, school, picking up instruments and all of that. And there comes the summer of 1984, 85, something. I was like, again, 12, 13 years old, 13, 14 years old. It was a common thing for European countries like Italy or France or Spain or Germany to send their kids to the UK during the summer to practice English.
Oh, right.
They would stay with the family for a couple of weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, and you will do your English lesson during the day, and then in the afternoon you can just
Wow.
enjoy a little bit, whatever. And it's a great experience. And I had a bunch of friends of mine from Milan, some of the people that I was playing with, and some other friends that were like already way older than me. I always hang out with people that were like, for some reason, like 3, 4, 5 years older than me. Well, and if you go back then, when I was 14, 15, you're talking about people that were like in the late teens or in the 20s. A lot of those guys came to London, actually came to the UK, because they wanted to watch this particular show, Castle Donington. They had a lot of great artists, but there's a lot of, it's a very particular time, not because, I was there and blah, 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 and I like to tell the story, but because of the serendipity of everything that happened, and everyone that played that day, that back then were like big star, became like fundamental part of my life, as a musician,
starting off with in Donington.
Yeah, Donington.
Wow,
at the racetrack. It was called Castle Donington. I think right now it's probably Download or some of these other festivals, but it was like those huge, like 100,000 people, and it was just insane.
Wow.
Well, anyways, I mean, we'll go back to everyone that was participating to that show later, because I'm sure you're going to ask me something that I will have to probably re-rescue the same topic. But the night,
keep it going. I love this.
But the night was closed by Whitesnake in their original lineup, not in the hair metal days, but in the early post Deep Purple days, which I think that for me was the best.
I think
that was the best.
You're talking about, yes, like late 60s, early 70s, Deep Purple, Black Sabbath, and somewhere.
Well, no, really. I mean, that's Deep Purple. But when I say Whitesnake, I think they got together like 77, 77, 76. That's after David Coverdale. I mean, after Deep Purple disbanded the first time, Richie Blackmore went on to start at Rainbow. And David Coverdale started his other outfit called Whitesnake, and half of the band was Deep Purple. I mean, John Lord was on keyboard, and I didn't see actually Ian Pace, but was Cozy Powell was the drummer back then. And the show was fantastic. The original lineup, Bernie Marsden, Neil Murray, and all those cats. And the thing that really got me shocked was that throughout the whole day and the previous night, all these people that were staying there, camping and stuff for the show, they were throwing everything up in the air. I mean, jug full of, I mean, can you say bad words on here or not?
You know what? Have at it.
Okay, cool. So they were like really jug of pee and shit. I'm not kidding. Like think like a gallon of milk. They would, and they would just turn it in the. I mean, the sky would be brown in between bands, and sometimes even when bands would play. That was a very famous thing to do in the UK for shows. I remember even Lemmy did a very famous interview talking about that when Twisted Sister first played in the UK. And he introduced them as, I mean, he had to get on stage and basically calm the people down. Otherwise, they were going to kill them with all, everything that was getting thrown on stage.
I can imagine. We're pissing you, shitheads.
So there was, they ended up, everybody was going crazy with throwing this stuff and, what's the point? And it comes to a part of the show where they play this rendition of Bobby Blue Bland, actually, Ain't No Love in the Heart of the City. And, the whole thing changed. I mean, now everything, it was like 100,000 people singing Kumbaya pretty much. The lighters came up because back then there was no cell phones. And, the vibe and the way these guys and the way Coverdale was able to basically command the crowd just by singing this music and stuff was like, wow, this is so powerful. I didn't really understand, so at the end, oh man, where I'm at the show in the UK, when I go back home, I'm gonna walk around with a chip on the shoulder because look, why the other guys went to the beach or watch the cover band, whatever. I went to see the originals, so I was like, oh, that's great. And Well, that was like a major shock for me. And I was already playing, of course. And then after 3 months, Queen, that was the first performance that they did in Italy, came to play in Milan. And they play in this beautiful place that now is no more, close to the soccer stadium in Milan. And that experience was like otherworldly. I mean, it was just insane. I mean, I didn't really speak English. I mean, I did, but not at the level to be, engaging in conversation, like crazy, or to know, memorize. I mean, of course, I will understand what, Friday was saying, all of it, but, you don't really know the lyrics of the song and
Right.
blah, blah, blah. But regardless, that was even more on favor of how powerful music was, because even if I didn't understand 100% what they were saying, I felt it. I didn't understand the word, but I felt the message. The communication was insane. And I was like, man, if these guys can, do this, just, this is what I want to do. This is just the best experience ever. And that was like basically what the sparkle that says, okay, this is what I want to do. I want to be a musician. So, it all started, when I was, 14, 15. And
Wow.
it continued from back then. I mean, of course, I was playing with a bunch of bands in Italy and everything. But, I wasn't too thrilled about the kind of music that was getting played over there. Because even though I'm a big fan of Italian music for the 50s and the 60s, there's some brilliant composers and brilliant sounds, even in the pop music. And right now you see all that stuff on movies and everything. So it's got a very particular, I have a very particular fascination with that kind of sound. Those were not the artists that were available, they were playing back then. I mean, think like the 80s, late 80s and stuff like that in Italy, to be honest with you, sound-wise, especially for pop artists, was very lame. And obviously my mind was already going, UK and everywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
So when we had a deal with Sony, with my band, they sent us to Canada a couple of times to play with Canadian bands, once again, to practice English and all of it. I used to work with a promoter, one of the biggest promoter that we have in Italy. And because of, I was getting, my English was, I would say, decent at that time for the average Italian standards. I was, even though super young, I was one of the stage managers when the big shows would come up, and I started to hang with some of the musicians that will come, during pre-shows or that kind of stuff. And then again, it got me in a different frame of mind. And as soon as my band ended up in breaking up, I decided to just, give it a shot. I went to New York. I didn't know anybody. I had one phone number of a person that was a friend of a guitar player that I used to play with in Italy. So I didn't know anybody.
Oh, wow.
And that's how we started.
Oh my gosh. I mean, you had an amazing journey. You went from New York in 1990, Los Angeles in 96, and a lot more. We'll talk about more of your journeys and some of your experience in just a minute. You listen to The Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Looking at a professional website without breaking your budget? Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs that blow the competition away. Call today, 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960, or email to support@sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show. Get 20% off your first project. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level. Also, time to give official shout out to our official sponsor of the Mike Wagner Show, international warring author Mia Molson-Zia. If you love fast-paced mysteries, you'll love Missing by Mia Molson-Zia, available on Amazon in paperback and ebook. Missing is fast-paced and intriguing with an unforgettable twist. Takes place in 4 countries, 2 strangers, 1 target, where truth is an illusion and those you love be the first to go missing. It's available on Amazon in paperback and ebook. Missing by Mia Molson-Zia has garnered great reviews and even loved and endorsed by Hollywood celebrities, Clean Joanna Cassidy, Forbes Riley, and many others. So grab your copy today before it goes missing by Mia Molson-Zia, available on Amazon. Also, check out the Mike Wagner Show merchandise at themikewagnershow.com and also on Amazon as well, too. Check out the Mike Wagner Show podcast. And for more great gift ideas, check out the Mia Molson-Zia store on Amazon for great books and more, t-shirts, hoodies, you name it, he's got it. Also, don't forget to support the Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com. Also, support us on Anchor FM as well as PayPal, and make sure you give generously today. We're here with the terrific gentleman, bass player, and of course, producer, music consultant, Fabrizio Grossi here on the Mike Wagner Show. Best known, we call him Fab, and he's definitely Fab as well, too. And you hop over to 1990 and, tell us about the journey, like going over to New York and also hopping over to LA in 96. And, you've just been all over the place. I mean, you got an amazing journey.
Yeah, it was a long boat ride. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm sorry. I didn't went through Ellis Island. No, no, didn't. Sorry, you know.
Don't worry about it.
No, 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 it's okay. Yeah, it was actually, I would say, quite interesting because that was the year. Those were the years where basically the hard rock or heavy rock, as everybody knew, was kind of like coming to an end. That was like when Pearl Jam and Nirvana and the early grunge scene was starting to develop. So there was like a weird situation in New York. New York has never really been a rock and roll city at all.
Mm,
But for me, that was Italian was definitely better than where I was coming from when it came down to this music. Obviously,
right.
nothing else. I mean,
Right.
Milan is
Exactly.
Milan is a beautiful city. Food wise, I'm sorry, New York still has to take a ticket, a number. I mean, you know, to keep up with Italy. I mean, there's a lot of other places in the world that still have to, and fashion too. But then again, it was just that that's where a lot of the people that I liked came from. And it says, okay, that's where I need to go. I mean, I'm not go, you don't go fish, you know, in the mountain. You go fish where there's a lake or there's water, you know.
Hmm.
You don't, so basically that was my philosophy. But I was able to actually navigate those water fairly well. I started to meet people and started to do what everybody generally does in this business when they go to a different city, just start to go to every single possible uh, seminary or songwriter association and ASCAP guilds meetings and all that kind of stuff. Even though I wasn't a member, I was just there just to meet people, you know, clubs and all that kind of stuff. And you know, I ended up enjoying a band, and you know, things started to move around. But you know, New York, at least for the kind of stuff that I like, that I wanted to do, or that at least me as a person wasn't too forgiving in terms of advancement. No, don't get me wrong. There's plenty of very successful musicians in New York, and they're fantastic, and they find their way, and it's beautiful. However, you have to understand that the concept of being a professional musician in the United States or Canada or even in the UK at some point, but more in the United States and in Canada, was a different level than what it is from Europe. In other words, here, of course, you have maybe the super conservative parents that they kind of like don't like the idea of their kid or their daughter to, you know, continue like artistic careers and all of that. But I mean, already the fact that you have all these universities with all these insane music programs in Berkeley and all of that, that shows already that once you become a oh, in other words, even though your parents might not like it, it's still a very certifiable career.
Hmm.
In Europe, not really. I mean, it was just a very, very, and also not coming from a family where there was any artist in, you know, performing arts. I'm not talking about anything else. My father was like a genius with motor vehicles and all that kind of stuff. So I guess he was an artist on his own right, but not applicable to something that you will do on stage. It's it was a, kind of like I said, okay, it was just kind of like a more forward. But New York, for me, I had this thing in mind. My thing, you know, when I was in New York, beside the band that I had, is like that I wanted to play with Ozzy Osbourne. You know, that was my thing. You know, I've always been
Oh yeah.
fascinated with Black Sabbath and Ozzy. And obviously Ozzy was, and there's a long story. I'm not going to even go back. I ended up going to his house in France when I was 16. I like almost like young stalker, you know, there's a bunch of different things there that could come into play. But anyways, regardless, my idea obviously was to be in a kind of music that I discovered once I was living in the States and playing with bands and all of it, that was more predominant on the West Coast and everything, even though I was already on the way down. So I decided after the band in New York disbanded to move out to California. I was already coming out often, you know, every year for NAMM shows and blah, 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 and all this kind of stuff.
Hmm.
So I gave LA a shot, and I've been here ever since. You know, I ended up in meeting some amazing people within the first 2 months that I was here. You know, I ended up in joining Nina Hagen as a musical director and a bass player. That was a great thing, but actually that and, you know, interaction with some other musicians brought me to Steve Vai,
Hmm.
who's not only right now is like it's one of my dearest friends and everything, but he was fundamental in my to start off my career properly, because he gave me the certification uh, necessary to be able to be taken seriously, you know.
Mm. Amazing.
I don't even know how you know, again, how, I mean, I know the kind of people that I played with, you know, and he was a Berkeley super educated dude. I mean, he's coming from Frank Zappa and all of it. But I don't know. I guess there was something that clicked, and I don't think it was just the Italian factor. It's just there was a bunch of other things, and I guess back then, obviously, you play with somebody like that, all of a sudden, people are taking you a little bit seriously, and that's why all of a sudden, I guess the rumor spread around, and obviously, all the guitar and bass publications, they were making their way back, you know, across the ocean, and a lot of the people that back then, I mean, of course, I was in touch with some friends, my family and everything. But back then it wasn't like now that you have WhatsApp and Zoom and the phone and, you know, and everything is for free. Back then to make a call to my parents, like a 5-minute call to my parents, it was like a $15-20 investment every single time.
Remember. Yeah. It's
So,
like
you
you're
know,
going through your change, going through your wallet, and you're lucky to have a credit card. I know how that goes.
it was
Oh my gosh.
it was insane. I mean, I think, you know, every Christmas AT&T used to send me flowers, I guess, for the amount of bills that I was ranking up, you know, flowers and chocolates.
AT&T send me flowers. I miss that.
So, you know, and my example has always been in New York to meet someone relevant for the world that I wanted to be part of. Your best chance was to go either to the island, meaning Long Island, or New Jersey, sometimes maybe even Massachusetts. And you would probably meet a girl that had a cousin that knew a roommate of a drummer of some important band's girlfriend. You know, that was the connection. While you come to Los Angeles, the first night that I was here, some friends that I had here that I knew that they were studying at the Musicians Institute, we had a get together in a place that is no more in Hollywood. And that night, everybody from the cast of Friends was there. And I remember Nina, obviously, Nina Hagen was there, Johnny Rotten, Johnny Lydon, of course, Rotten, you know, that was during the Sex Pistol days. And I was already like, what the hell? I mean, I was in New York for 5 years and I never really see any one of these unless when we were opening up for bigger bands. Here, I'm on a night off and look at these guys and they're all coming, you know, I just got drunk with Matt LeBlanc. I mean, what the hell? I mean, it doesn't make any sense, you know? And I guess that's what made things a little bit easier. And that's why, back home, you know, record companies and some of the other people that they work with, that they were already, I guess, advancing their career, started to get in touch with me. And hey, by the way, we're looking to do a recording there. Can you please help us out? Want to have studios and all that kind of stuff. And then, but are you in touch with any record company? Well, because we have these artists, they're doing really well in Europe. We're looking for a license in the United States. I'm looking for a representation. Would you be interested? You know, that's pretty much how it started, you know, and it wasn't really a substitution work to be a musician, but it's actually, you know, it was a good thing because actually it was a fairly, I would say, not steady gig, but gave me the opportunity to meet a lot of other people. They were fundamental for my music, and also gave me the opportunity to wear a lot of hats, where I think, yeah, that's, you know, to be honest with you, I noticed that, I mean, today is, of course, is a different thing with social media and all these things that you got, like kids, they're musicians and, you know, that obviously they navigate throughout the internet and all these new platforms and blah, blah, blah. But after, up till 4 or 5 years ago, where this world was still somehow attached to the previous world, meaning record companies, CDs, vinyls, you know, even cassettes to some extent.
Oh, cassettes! I remember that. I still have a few, by the way.
Oh, and they sounded great, and all of that.
Yes.
It was very important to have the opportunity to do this because I always been involved. Obviously, becoming a producer, kind of like it got me to know a lot about our business, the music business. In other words, I wasn't like a lawyer or anything like that could write a contract from zero, but because of all the contracts that I had to deal with, I can definitely, you know, negotiate one. I can definitely point out the parts that are not proper, especially when it comes down to licensing or a publishing one and all that kind of stuff. So that kind of like it gave me a little bit of an edge against a bunch of other colleagues of mine that were like insane musicians, but they never really had to deal with any of these aspects. So to be honest, it was annoying, and it still is annoying because I'm still doing some of those things for my projects. But in one way, it's actually good because you get to learn a lot of things that otherwise you wouldn't. because nobody will ever explain you how exactly works, and kind of like helps you out in terms of like to look out for yourself on out of those circumstances. So actually, I guess it worked out really, really, really fine for me in that sense. But of course, I would prefer play 12 hours a day, but that's a different story.
Right. And of course, too, talking about with social media and everything else, being A&R rep and everything else, do you think with the role you have with the traditional, it's like your records, tapes, contracts, phone calls, paying long distance and everything. Do you think the social media has really made it that much easier? Or is it like, in a sense, easy, but it's also complicated? Or is this like, gotten more like, say, a little more, was it sophisticated or something? It's like easier to navigate, but then it's like, more speed to it. I think that's where I'm trying to look for.
Well, yeah, everything is super fast today. If you consider that back in the days when you dealt with a record company, you finish a record, let's say today, you have your master back tomorrow. It will take almost like a year before it will be released, or at least like 6 or 7 months, because by the time they print it out, they prepare the things and the documents to send out to the publicist. And then the magazine had like 2 or 3 or 4 months beforehand before they could prepare a monthly issue and all that kind of stuff. So you have to think that was the way. And right now, I can finish a song now, as I just did today, and have the new single coming out on Friday. With the old record company, everybody ready to go. So it's that in one way is great. Actually, I think it was a major improvement. Also, I like the fact that social media allowed a lot of artists to be free, being able to do what they wanted to do. Like, for example, one of these projects that I'm so involved in these days, which is my own solo project, Soul Garage Experience, I decided not to do it with any label, not for lack of offers or anything like that. It's just because I didn't want it to, again, I wanted to do it completely the way I wanted to do it. And in a way that I decide the time. I decide when I do something. I don't want to take a number because there's another artist before me and they need to finish to deal with them. And then it's my turn. And then something, no, sorry. I'm not that patient no more. In spite of my Buddhist practice, when it comes down to this kind of stuff, I'm patient where in life, I would say in human dealings and all of that, and understanding, I'm very patient, of course, I'm very tolerant. But when it comes down to, and again, I'm sorry for the language, but for the glorified bullshit of the music business, where everybody has an excuse to tell you how something cannot work or how things cannot work the way you wanted them to work, simply because that doesn't fit their agenda or what they had in mind, or it kind of like, I would say shake the boat a little bit too much for their usual amusement on how relaxed they are doing their job. Sorry, that I cannot be patient. I cannot buy it. I don't drink it no more. They can tell it to somebody that is 20 years old and probably freshly starting, not to me at this point. And I wanted to try something different. And I think this is it's a great opportunity because you don't need to have a label. You don't need to have all of that to present your music out there. Mm-hmm. However, that's the good stuff. That's the good side. There's always like a dark side, like the opposite side, the bad side, however you want to call it, the yin yang.
Right.
And the bad side is that social media and all this technology switch gear in the machine that is the music business, giving more power and recognition to the artist that better know how to deal with the technology than not with their own talent. Mm-hmm. Meaning, and I'm not talking about people that are monster in studio that they use like auto-tuners and all that kind of stuff. I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about that, because that's an art too. You need to be a sound engineer. You need to be a great operator and a great engineer and somebody with knowledge to be able to use those plugins and those systems. So there is time and study and obviously a learning curve that goes into that I, of course, respect a lot. I had to go through that myself as well. So I know what it takes. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about the fact that you have a 15, 16 years, 17 years old person that was born with the computer in her hand. They understand the machine's language. And I'm not talking about running a program. I'm talking about how the machine thinks and how the algorithm thinks, especially when you are online, because even though they keep changing and upgrading it and all of that, they're all part of the same principle. And sometimes some of these reality are, I guess, easy to unlock for somebody that not necessarily is younger, but that is very, very dedicated and hands on a machine all day. And I'm not talking about just writing emails.
Right.
So if you understand the way it works with the social media, if you understand and you're able to get to interact with the algorithms and all the, I guess, elements that are they're completing the platforms, you can thrive. You can end up in having millions of followers and actually make a lot of money too on top of it because of it. But that doesn't have nothing to do with the quality of the music that you do. I understand that a lot of people can say, hey, listen, we're there's always been shitty artists throughout the world, throughout the history of music and all of that. Yeah, hold on one second. Let's hold your horses. Because I'm not calling anybody shitty. Everyone that's doing music and all of that, I respect it. It's great, beautiful. And it takes a lot out of a person to be able to perform in front of somebody or to kind of like lay yourself out naked and show yourself naked, singing, performing online of it. So I respect that a lot. So I will never call anybody shitty on that sense. But what I mean is that before, up to the moment where the internet took over our life, or I mean, social media is more than the internet. If you wanted to be a musician, either to start your own band, to be a solo artist, or to be a side musician for other bigger artists, you really needed to know how to play your instrument. You really needed to be on top of your game as a musician. Meaning you needed to perform. You needed to know how to perform. Because everybody is Eddie Van Halen in their bedroom with their guitar on.
Or Guitar Hero.
The tapping. Yeah, just jumping on the bed and doing your thing. Everybody can do Eddie Van Halen in their bedroom when they play guitar. Well, just try to do that on stage at that level, and then we'll talk about it. That's why, the ratio is like 1 versus 99. 1 makes it, and 99, they don't even get the chance to get there.
Right.
Well, back then, even though it was bad, of course, and obviously there were a lot of more money involved in things, and to make a record that was more expensive and blah, 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 blah. But you know what? In one way, I kind of like prefer that because it was almost like a natural selection, kind of like a survival of the fittest, meaning Pink Floyd. It's not that today there are not bands that are as good as Pink Floyd. Trust me, there are incredible musicians out there. But now it's so easy for you to get your record out and to make your record out that even if Pink Floyd will come out today, they would have not become the band that they became. And they probably wouldn't even get the chance to be heard. Because you're talking about hundreds, if not thousands of music and songs that are coming out every month.
Rapid pace,
also,
yes.
think like the music that they were doing, very experimental with a lot of sounds and everything. It was like hours and hours and hours of tedious work in the studio and copy things and recording all the sound and helicopters just to get them into the track and cut the tape to splice it. I mean, it's just like insane, the type of work. It's like at the level of those, architect and sculptures that work on the European cathedrals in the 1400 or in 1600 during the Renaissance. We're at that level of dedication in the studio, right? Now, I mean, with the technology, you can download a program for free where I can flip the guitar. I can play reverse. I mean, back then, if you wanted to record a sound reverse, you have to flip the tape and you have to record before I click on it.
Like I remember those days.
To recognize the track, because otherwise, if you play backwards, you wouldn't even know where you were in the song. So think about it. Now I do, and back then to do something like that done, it would have taken at least like 4 or 5 hours. Right now, I can flip a track or I can play a guitar solo and flip it within the song within 2 seconds.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that, to be honest with you, is the kind of stuff that unfortunately allowed a lot of more people to do it. So back then, only the real determined one, only the one that had a lot to say, were able to do this. And I'm not saying that there were not other good people as good as Pink Floyd that didn't make it from back then. But what I'm saying is like Pink Floyd made it because they were Pink Floyd, not because they were lucky. because those guys that were there
Right.
were those guys.
Oh yeah.
Now I know plenty of people that could be as good as that, and they do not have the opportunity because there's so much competition out there, and they are outshined by other artists. They are more capable to deal with a computer than not to deal with their own craft. So basically, what back then was the record companies a strong arm of the money, so dealing with the publicist and the marketing and the radios and all that kind of stuff. Right now, it's been replaced by the computer and the technological knowledge on how to deal with these aspects. So to be honest with you, there is a lot of music and there's a lot of things that are very interested, but and I don't want to, in terms of talk bad of young artists, because I'm a big supporter of young musicians. Even with me on my projects, if we get to talk about it, I will tell you how many young musicians and what I do and what I always did to always trying to push young musicians and aspiring artists to get on the right path and the practicing, studying, and, learn about all the different parts of their business and all of it. So I'm not dismissing somebody just because he's young, because I'm still talking about musicians that even though they're 17, 18, 19, these are people that play hours and hours a day. They cannot wait for the moment to get on stage and stuff. These are not bedroom heroes like 90% of all the musicians and performing artists that you find right now on YouTube or online. I mean, you got people, and I mentioned him, that are winning Grammys and they never done a concert. I mean, how's that possible?
Right, exactly, too. And the thing that came to mind as well, too, that with Pink Floyd, would Pink Floyd be successful today? No, because it requires hours and hours. The attention span has shrunk dramatically. I mean, what was it, in the 70s or something? What was it? The attention span was about 5 minutes, 10 minutes, somewhere around there. It was a really good number. Of course, go back to older days, you had to stand up and, pay attention, like, 2 hours, like you go to a sermon, a lecture. And if you're not up for 1 second, somebody will come over like that, get your attention, or a teacher will come over and slap or whatever it is. And then, back, and then later it's like that, wake up. And now it's just like the attention span I was reading nowadays. It's like anywhere from 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 seconds at the most. The attention span has shrunk dramatically. And could that be a possible effect on, being affected like with music and everything else? Attention spans are shrinking dramatically.
Absolutely. If you think about it, records from the 70s, I'm not talking about, necessarily the music that I like, my heart music, again, black music, soul and blues and Americana, rootsy stuff and everything. I'm talking even like pop or rock stuff. There were intros on the record. If you remember, there were intros, right?
Oh, like yeah, and goes about a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes.
Yeah, like the intro. And actually, you needed to have an intro for a record. And then there was the teaser. You would start the song maybe with a riff. There was like a verse, and then when there was about to the chorus was about to come in. Then no, all of a sudden you don't do the chorus because you tease the audience a little bit more. You do one more verse. Then finally, when the chorus comes in at about a minute 15, minute 20, then you really can enjoy it right now.
or you have like a little bridge as a teaser. Yeah, it's like the bridge over. Yes.
Well, now we're doing songs with either outros or choruses. And that's it. I mean, because unless you're selling your song or your idea within the first 10 to 15 seconds, you're done. If you didn't catch the attention of the listeners within those few seconds, that's history. So it didn't matter what happens on the song.
And that's something I was reading as well too. And I just shook my head. I'm like, oh my gosh. And the thing that many of these so-called artists are doing these days, instead of doing like 3-5 minute songs, whatever, even 2 minutes, now they're doing songs of like a minute or less nowadays, and they just put them on YouTube, release as singles. I mean, that's like the new trend these days.
Well, I guess that's more, probably into other genre of music, whether it's EDM or whether it's pop, or I don't even think hip hop gets to that level. So, I guess, hey, it's a free country. Everybody can do whatever they want. For me, I get to a point where I see it, I understand, and I understand what's going on in terms of like, I have my daughter is 19 now, and she's going to be 20 in November.
Oh, wow.
And she's going to study in in New York, she got accepted at the Circle in the Square, which is a very prestigious music, because she wants to do music theater, Broadway, basically. Or she didn't get that from me, for sure. Because, I mean, no, I appreciate a lot that, because you need to be double badass. You need to be a badass actor, and you need to be a badass singer. In addition, you really need to know how to dance as well. So it's actually a triple challenge, Sometimes us crazy rock and roller dudes, long hair, you hide behind your bass or your guitar, shades and long hair, and that's your thing. You do Broadway, you're completely naked. I mean, they see you have to dance, you have to act, you have to sing. No BS, no loud volumes, not the guitar that it's too loud and it covers everything. There's no mosh pit, there's no, it's the real deal. So what I'm saying is, like, even though I understand, growing up in my house between myself and my wife, which is actually another, she's a great musician, very, very knowledgeable singer, and quite famous in her own world. And we always trying to expose our daughter to different kind of music. And even though she had the moment where, with the contemporary pop music and all of that, where some of her friends were playing and all of it, for some reason, when nobody asked her to do anything, she will go and she will get some selected record out of our, record collection. And when they started with YouTube and Spotify and all of that, she put it on herself to go and look for obscure music. I mean, she started to show me some like music, Italian music from the 50s and the 60s that I wasn't even aware of it. And even some American stuff from the 60s and the 70s. In other words, she used the technology, the fact of having all this music available at your fingertips, as an enrichment tool, not just like a reason of being lazy. And I'm not saying this about her because that's my daughter, but trust me, not all youths are like that. I mean, are lazy when it comes down. There is a lot of people that act like, I made the example of my daughter because she lives with us, but so I see her every day. But there are a lot of young people that are dedicated to that, and they have this passion, and they're using the technology available to them today to give themselves a musical culture about what happened in the last 60, 70 years. And a lot of these kids, the one that they really want to get into it, they know some stuff that, I mean, they have some information that are completely unknown to me as well, because, I didn't, what the hell am I going to find out who was, how many kids Muddy Waters had and everything when I was growing up. I didn't know. Now it's available everywhere. Right. So at the end of the day, I don't really point the finger against the technology of it. Technology is only as good as how you use it. It's just like a contract. The contract is only as good as the people that signs it. If I know that I want to screw you over, it doesn't really matter if I sign a piece of paper or not. I will do whatever I want to do regardless. Then I did something that you don't like, well, then sue me. But
right,
that's unfortunately, it's the attitude. With this thing, it's just a little bit different. I think technology, if you use it to your advantage to improve, to move forward, and to do things that you were not able to do before, I think that's fantastic. But I don't think we should really forget something. Mozart has been dead for, I don't know what, 300 years? Yeah, probably 350.
I think I lost track after a while, but I do have a good idea. Yes.
And Antonio Vivaldi, it was like 400 and something years and all that. And these people, we don't even have their pictures. We don't even have their records. We still talk about their compositions. Mm-hmm. We're still playing that, and their stuff is still taught in schools. Mm-hmm. Without going that far, we'll look at the 50s, 40s. I mean, from anybody, from Frank Sinatra to Dean Martin to even let's go to the rock and roll revolution. And Gene Vincent and Buddy Holly and Elvis Presley, Muddy Waters, Howlin' Wolf, and all those people, going again up to Pink Floyd, Rolling Stones, and all those cats. These cats are still relevant today as they were 50, 60 years ago. Mm-hmm. I'm not really sure if the girl that just won a bunch of Grammys this year, somebody's going to remember her in 10 years or 20 years from now. Mm-hmm. Or maybe they will remember her for sure, but I'm not really sure if they're going to remember any of the songs that she did. Mm-hmm. So that's for me, that's the sad part. And again, I'm not pointing the finger at the artist itself, because unfortunately they deal musically or artistically within their time frame. This is the time in which they live and operate, and this is what happens in this time. But I kind of like, there's a difference for me. I'm sorry, when I hear a record, or when I see musicians that are incredibly gifted when it comes down to their technical prowess on their instrument, and they're playing out of their bedroom because they learn an Eddie Van Halen tune or a Dizzy Gillespie trumpet run, and they just doing it on steroids 3 times as fast and whatever it is, and they make a video from themselves and they show it. Once again, we're playing tonight at this club. Why don't you come over? Let's do that, live. And I'm not saying this because, I want to be an asshole and just get them a bad experience. But meaning, that's where actually
reality,
music is the reality. I mean, it's the interacting with people. It's the fact that when you have these 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people on stage, that all of a sudden are kind of like they're in the zone, and they're communicating with the same, they're on the same wavelength. What happens is amazing. And these things we're still talking about. This is like Miles Davis Sketches of Blue. This is like Jimi Hendrix of Woodstock. These are the kind of stuff that made history. But that happens because you have a real interaction with musicians. It's just, dealing with the machine itself alone, I don't know. After a while, it gets a little lame,
Right, exactly. And of course, you got some great projects yourself too. You've been involved in Starbreaker. You also been in, like Goodfellas, and also you got your, oh my gosh, I mean, you just got so much Supersonic Blues Machine, and you also got your latest project, Soul Garage Experience. We'll talk about those in just a minute. You listen to the Mike Wagner Show at the MikeWagnerShow.com, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at SonicWebStudios.com for all your needs. Also brought to you by our official sponsor of the Mike Wagner Show, international warring author Mia Molson's You Have Missing, available on Amazon and paperback and ebook. We'll be back with the very multi-talented Fabrizio Grossi after this time out. We're back with the multi-talented bassist, Italian bassist, producer, Fabrizio Grossi here on the Mike Wagner Show, best known as Fab. And we talked really, really in depth about the A&R industry and, of course, what he does. I mean, I learned a lot, I got to say that. And we're about to do over some wine as well, too, sometime as well, too. So, of course, you've been in Starbreaker, and also had Goodfellas. You also joined George Clinton as well, too. And I mean, oh my gosh, Billy Gibbons from ZZ Top, Supersonic Blues Machine. And you also got your new project, Soul Garage Experience. And talk about some of your projects and working up right to your current one. I mean, amazing.
Well, when my daughter was born, I decided to, be more present. So to focus more on the production end of my industry. I mean, I still travel a bit. I mean, if there was maybe a record to be done where in Europe or New York, whatever it is, sure. But no, like a lot of my other friends or colleagues that would tour 6, 7, 8 months a year, because I saw the impact that had on their personal life. And I didn't want to have that for my daughter. But so I guess kind of like went to sleep when it came down to some part of the music playing, But then she started to get a little bit older, and she started to get really interested in music. And she started to sing, and the actor studio and all that kind of stuff. And funny enough, about 11 years ago, we did this Kenny Aronoff, legendary drummer, that is my partner in Supersonic Blues Machine. I mean, Kenny, it's a luminary of the drums. I mean, he played with everybody from Dr. Johns to John Cougar Mellencamp, Melissa Etheridge, Smashing Pumpkins, B.B. King. I mean, it's easy for me to tell you who he didn't play with. I mean, and Kenny is a very, very, very particular person. Steve Lukather, the dear friend of mine, probably one of the best top 5 living guitar player at the moment. The guy is just simply insane, but he's also a great person. And we've been friends for a long time, since actually I came to Los Angeles. One of my first few sessions for an Italian artist required, for us to get Steve to come and play a guitar on one track. We were able to do that thanks to Greg Bissonette, another drummer, legendary drummer. And I recorded together with Greg, with Steve Vai. That's I was able to get that connection. And since that session on, Steve and I were being very, very good friends. Steve was putting together, I mean, I had a bunch of things, a bunch of friends and colleagues in Europe that wanted to do a series of shows and with selected musicians. And I told Luke, hey, why don't you want to do this, blah, blah, blah. I got this, I don't know, 15, 16 shows, whatever. And he's like, yeah, well, that sounds great. But you know what? You always put these things together for me and everything. And it's fantastic. And I never really, I mean, other than when we're in studio or when we're playing around here, we never really get the chance to go out and really tour together. Why, I'll do it. But if you play bass, and I'm like, much okay.
You're like,
but well, then I said, well, then I have another request. I have another request for you. I'll play bass if you get me to play. If you get, a drummer, because I'm very picky with drummers, and Steve too. I mean, I think a band is only as good as its drummer.
Very true.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Everybody else, my singers and everybody will go like, oh no. I'm sorry. I'm not talking only as a bass player or as a performer. I'm talking about as a producer. If you have a drummer that has it together, the band has it together. If the drummer doesn't have it together, you can have John Scofield, Alan Olsworth, and Steve Vai on guitar, and they will sound like crap. So that's the law of the jungle. That's what it is. So I was telling Steve, and you know what? Of all the people that we know, I never played with Kenny Aronoff. I think we should ask him. Why don't you make that call? I'll be more than then I'll definitely play. I will play regardless, but that would be great. He says, oh yeah, Kenny, of course. We're great friends with Kenny. Lives 2 houses down from I'll call him. He calls the phone, like when he calls him on the phone while we were talking about this, because we're in person. Back then we're still at meetings. Real meetings. And well, it happened that Kenny was available and he joined us immediately. Like after 45 minutes, he came to the restaurant where we were. We started talking and stuff, and we got along so well. We ended up going on tour. And at the end of the tour, there was a time where Steve was considering putting Toto in a hiatus, because it was like a lot of like stressful things, and Jeff Porcaro died, and a bunch of other things that was like really crazy. So we started to do these tours, Goodfellas, and when we finished, Steve wanted to do that. And throughout the tour, since we did a couple of workshops in Europe, and I was actually Steve host, like a mediator, like what you're doing on the show. Not when we were playing, not when we were doing the concerts, but we weren't doing workshop or panels. I basically got lobby on him with everybody in the room just to kind of like continue with Toto. So at the end, basically, we come back home and we're out of a job because he decided to start to record another record with Toto.
No.
No, but that was fine. That's totally fine. And but Kenny and I says like, hey, we want to keep on doing this, but we need to get a guitar player like that, because blah, blah, blah. Sure. So funny enough, within a few months from that, I ended up in hooking up with Leslie West, and I told him, I want to do a record for you that you haven't done at least in 10 years. And I want to bring you, I want to make you relevant again. And he almost got offended. It's like, the fuck are you talking about? I've been around since Woodstock and everything. And I said, yes, I know. But unfortunately, you have a lot of people, especially in the younger generation, that they have no freaking clue about who you are, not because you are irrelevant. It's because the people they're supposed to be working for you, or that you recorded for, made you so by complete and utter ignorance on how to handle their part of the job, on the promotion of records and all that kind of stuff. So that kind of like got him like, okay, I never really saw it that way. He said, I thought that you were calling me like an idiot or anything. Absolutely not what you did. I mean, I wouldn't want to do a record with you if you were not, So, and basically I got Mascot Record Group involved, and we recorded this record. And as soon as we went in to do this record, as such was the interest and the love for a lot of great players, that everybody wanted to participate. And, within a couple of days, I got calls from Slash, from Joe Bonamassa, and Zach Wilde, and Steve Lukather again, that they wanted to participate to the record. So basically, I immediately called Kenny and I say, hey, listen, I'm producing Leslie West's new record. Why don't you come down? Why don't you play drums? And you and I do the same thing that we did with Luke with a, rhythm section. Hopefully, it's another thing that we do. Hopefully some of these other cats will notice, will come in, and we can continue the conversation. And he says, oh, that sounds great. And actually that record was quite successful, and we had a blast doing it. And we're kind of like slowly building up even more, I would say, hunger of wanting to play, wanting to go out and do what.
Right, more and more. Exactly. I know what you mean. More and more.
And my daughter was already getting a little bit older, and all of a sudden, Billy Gibbons, who actually we were already friends for a bit now. At that point, this I'm talking about 5 years ago, right? We were already working together for like 12, 13 years or something like that. Man, I cannot believe that. I mean, I'm telling you, these years now, I'm holy shit, that's a long time. But Billy calls me and says, listen, we have an offer to do a commercial, a jingle for a Texas whiskey. The director and the brand wanted to clear a song out of our record, which was their latest record. Latest ZZ Top record was titled La Futura. And the opening track was called Gotta Get Paid, was a spin-off an hip-hop of an hip-hop track that was fairly famous in the Houston area in the 80s.
Oh, wow.
But the guy that wrote it, the two artists and the publishers of them, one died, the other two were in jail. It was it was not like really like, let's try to license something that was originally sung by Celine Dion. These guys,
and they
it's
just
like
got
whatever.
paid, one in jail, two died or something like that, just got paid. How appropriate.
Exactly. No, but that's the reason, 25 lighters on the night, on the nightstand, you got, so that's what the song says. 25 lighters was the unit, or you were selling crack in the 80s. They had the lighters that were filled with the rock, and each box of lighters will hold 25. So, 25 lighters on the nightstand, And I mean, obviously Billy changed it to, to fit the ZZ Top narrative, but that was the story. Well, anyways, they couldn't clear the song, and he was telling me, I want to write something new that even is even more appropriate. I have this idea. Do you mind if I come to the studio, show you what I have, and maybe you can help me out to put it down? And I'm like, hell, of course. I mean, who's going to say no to Billy Gibbons, So Billy comes down, and within, we were there the whole afternoon. Also, Tal Wickenfeld was down with us. We just, put down a couple of ideas and all of that. And then she left, and Billy and I continued to do our thing. And by the end of the night, we had this song. And by the time we were with the song, his manager called us to let us know that, guys, I'm sorry, I have some bad news and some good news. Bad news is that the director of the commercial and the company, they were able to clear the song. They got a hold of the estate of some of these rappers, whatever it is. They're going to be using the other song. So the song that you guys wrote, we're not going to be able to use it in the commercial. However, since even the label too knows that you guys invested time and blah, 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 they're giving you carte blanche to do whatever you want with the song. No strings attached, with Billy too. So there's no obligation. Go for it. It's a one-off. You guys do whatever you want to do with it.
Wow.
So amazing. I'm looking at Billy and I'm like, hey man, what do you suggest? What we need to do? I think this is way too cool. I mean, it's not that I never heard anything like this, but it's so cool and it's so catchy that I think we will be a bunch of idiots if we don't do anything with this. What do you think? I'm going to give you my Gibbons impression. Okay. He went, well, you got one, write 9 more and start a band. I'll join in whenever my day job allows. That meaning day job meaning ZZ Top, And I'm like, okay, but we need, and he says like, but you do need a great drummer to play this beat, because we program a beat with the drum machine and everything, right? And I'm like, I have a drummer. And I called Kenny right on the spot. And I thought, hey, I'm sending you an MP3 of this thing. I just put this thing down with Billy. Billy has a crazy idea. What you think? And he listened to the song. He calls me back 5 minutes. Dude, you guys are your studio? Yes. Don't move. After an half hour, he shows up with drums and everything. We tracked drums. And at the end of the night, we were done with the song, which actually happened to be the first single in the first record of Supersonic Blues Machine. And the song is called Running Whiskey.
Oh, wow.
Now, we didn't have a deal back then yet. We just finished the song. And it happened that in those days I was producing a posthumous record for the great Tommy Bolin, and I was doing it with Warren Haynes of Government Mule and Allman Brothers.
Mm-hmm.
And Government Mule were coming to play in Los Angeles after a couple of weeks. So I'll ask Warren, hey, listen, can you hook me up maybe with a ticket or so? I'll pay for the ticket, but hook me up with backstage pass. I want to stop by and say hi to you, the guys, the band, and everything. Oh, no, don't worry, come over. So I go to the show behind the theater on Broadway, on downtown Los Angeles, a huge parking lot. So that's where the two buses were parked. I go there, make my way up in Warren's tour bus, and everybody was there. Jimmy Vivino and a bunch of other musicians and players, the band and all of it. And Warren's like, so what's going on with that thing that you're doing with Gibbons, man? Why don't you say nothing? I want in. I thought, what am I doing with Gibbons? What are you talking about? But the commercial, they already, no, this other thing, man, he was telling me, but oh, well, and I told him about it. And I said, but you know what? I have an idea that I just put down with my other co-writer, with Serge. I'll send it over, see what you think. Well, we started to go back and forth with Skype back then. And we ended up actually going to this studio, Carriage House, up in upstate New York. They had a very big screen with a good Skype connection. So I was in my studio in Los Angeles with Kenny, and they were in their studio in New York with this. May your mind, it was like 6 years ago, 6.5 years ago. People were already used to transfer files, but people would play on it. They wouldn't do like a live session, this video, right? Mm-hmm. So I guess we were kind of like, pushing the envelope back then. I cannot just receive a file from somebody and, be cool with it. It's not going to happen. Mm-hmm. So we did that, and we came up with this song called Remedy. That is still one of our favorite. And after that, I said like, wow, this sounds like really something. There was just like right after a NAMM show where I reconnected with Eric Gales, which I think is one of the most incredible living guitar players ever. I worked with him with George Clinton and the P-Funk on a celebration, an Hendrix celebration that we did right in the year 2000. Mm-hmm. And so we reconnect. And I'm like, hey man, I'm doing this thing and stuff. Do you, would love to do some, why don't you come and play? Oh man, that sounds fun. So we started jamming and everything. And there you go, another one. So I ended up calling the same record company that we did the work with Leslie. And I say, hey, by the way, I got these 3 pieces of music here. And, more seems to be coming around every day.
Oh my!
What do you suggest that we do? And the Ed Van Ziegler, the president, told me, well, I would love to put out this record. Do you think you're gonna be able to finish the whole record like this? Which, yeah, I'll give you 2 records like this. and he's like, okay, so let's do it. I didn't even sign a contract. We just wrote down a couple of things via email. Wow. And we shook hands, and that's what it is. We're like actually 4 records in. We're about to do another record with Supersonic, but it was a gentleman's agreement, which never happened in this industry. But I guess
a rare case in this case too. So a rare case, yeah. And it's could be common these days. You never know.
Well, the only other one that I know, the only other one that I know worked well was the one between Alice Cooper and Shep Gordon, because they've been together for like 40 years with no accident, no incidents, and they're still very good friends. So, I guess it depends what's your frame of mind when you go into these kind of things. And, that's how we started. And immediately, we got an incredible welcome from media and fans, and we got a great agent. Did I say, obviously, with all the many hats that I've been wearing in the music business, I guess I had to get my hands on the live department as well. So I started to get involved with rock festivals and blues festivals, especially in Europe and in Eastern Europe, to the point where I ended up in being like musical director for some of them and helping to scout talents and all of it. So one of my favorite agent out of the UK, because he's got a boutique agency, but he handles and represents some of my favorite artists, from Joe Bonamassa to Warren Haynes to, again, Government Mule, Tower of Power, Diane Warwick, and a lot of incredible English artists, Townsend, tons and tons of artists, reach out to me because I used to produce, I was still very good friends with Glenn Hughes of Deep Purple. They had a band that actually it's something that I put together with Joe and Joe Bonamassa and Glenn. I mean, at least I gave him the idea to do this. They wanted actually some help in Eastern Europe for booking these events, and Glenn. And I got to talk to Pete, to Neil O'Brien and his office. And basically, I reached out after a few months that I helped them out on this app. And I say, Neil, I just signed this thing. Signed. I mean, you say sign, but basically, I just made this agreement with Mascot. We got this record coming out. I do not have any representation, but I think considering that 70% of the guests on the record that they wanted to go out with us playing are your clients, maybe I should be your client too. And he's like, what are you talking about? But I'm going to send you something. Let's talk in a couple of days. Sure. Well, he calls me back and he says, dude, that's fantastic. It's beautiful. And it's great. What's coming up? But you know what? I'll tell you something. I'm coming to London in 3 weeks because I was doing another record for Mascot. Why don't we get together and we talk for a second and stuff? I went there. My first day in London, I went to Neil's office. It was Neil Oxford Street back then, really right in front of the Gibson building. And we talked about this and we shook hands. And again, no contract or nothing. I've been working with Neil ever since. We're developing a lot of things together and stuff. And he really did it great for us. I mean, he was able to get us immediately in some badass festivals and get us some like headlining spots that I'm like, dude, we barely have a record out. How the hell did you get us? And he says like, well, I know people, no, but I guess it was compelling. It was a great story. We had a lot of great musicians coming out with us playing, and the situation continued. And now we're working with the label. I cannot say dates or anything like that, but we will make an announcement pretty soon about the new Supersonic Blues Machine record. The record is being done already for more than a year, as you can imagine.
Supersonic Blues Machine, interesting. Yeah, but you got the Soul Garage experience. Like, you got a lot on the plate.
Well, I'll tell you about that. Well, with Supersonic though, we have a new record coming out. We're in the midst of putting the final touches now on videos, programming, rebooking the tour for the third time in the last year and a half.
Thank you, pandemic. Thank you, so-called Corona.
Exactly. And but I think it will be a good I think it will be a good run because everybody's so eager to go back and play and just to do something. And we're kind of like, and we also really miss each other because Kenny and I have, our studios are attached, so I see him pretty much every day. But one thing is like when you see somebody every day here in town and all of that and blah blah blah, and one thing when you live with somebody on the road, even if it's just for weekends at the time, for 2 or 3 shows, then you go back home for a week or 2 and then you go out again for it, the whole thing, the whole adrenaline of going to the airport, get on the plane, arriving over there, just you're showing your rooms, and then you have the final rehearsal. You do some of the rehearsal before leaving, and then probably you do like a quick rehearsal in one of the rooms and hanging with these guys and stuff and just be ready. And we always wanted to keep it fairly fresh with Supersonic. We wanted to kind of like since all these people that ended up playing with us are monster player, I always pushed for the go on stage under rehearsed. So we do not put up a Beyonce show where everybody's super perfect tight and everything, but
kind of like lots of lights, lots of glitter and everything.
No. Well, that I don't mind, but unfortunately, when you do some of those shows, like again, Beyonce, by the way, is an insane performer. Okay, I'm not trying to dump shit on it, but this is something that is so complicated as a show because of all the cues with the lights and syncs and the video and all of that. That musician. I mean, you have 4 bar solos and you better stick to those 4 bars because, I mean, the band is not going to follow you. I mean, these are predetermined path. You cannot stray away from it. Everything is already pre-calculated. I mean, the drummer has to do those fills every night because on those fills, maybe some of the lights are going in sync with what he's playing. So it's very important that you learn the show and you keep on repeating the show. For us, it's actually the other way around. I always make it, okay, I send the guys that are coming out with us the music, but you learn it and then forget it. Meaning when you come up, don't play what the other guy before you did, but just play your thing. And it's amazing.
Done in a sense, yes.
Well, and the proof was like that. We have one of the songs that of Supersonic that I'm the most attached to, that is called Let It Be, that is a very bluesy track, but it's very particular. Um, on the record, we recorded it by ourselves. We didn't have any guests, but the first few times that we play it live, we played it with Robin Ford, the amazing Robin Ford. And the song, especially the ending vamp, it kind of like was turning into an Allman Brothers Steely Dan-ish kind of vibe, you know, because of obviously where Robin goes, you know, when he plays. We ended up in playing the same song with Eric Gales. I can tell you, it's just a completely different animal. But I'm not talking about tiger to lion. I'm talking about lion to elephant. You know, just completely different species. You know, just so. But that's the great of having friends like this and musicians like this. They have such a great personality. They're great in their instrument, but they are not afraid to show their personality. If you let them loose and you give them, okay, these are the chords. Now play them the way you want them, and just watch it happen. That's why I love this band, because every time we go out, it's like we never do the same show twice. And but at the end of the night, we go in on stage that even though after the hundreds or the thousands of concerts that we did throughout our own lives, we still have that kind of like almost like fear that, oh shit, how does it go? How do we end that one? Oh, I don't know. What's the count? Who counts that? You counted it? But then for some reason, after the first 1, 2, 3, when the show starts, everything clicks in and it's a machine. That's why Supersonic Blues Machine, you know. So that's one of my babies, I guess. But then there's the other thing that I really dedicated a lot of time on, especially the last 2 years with Soul Garage Experience, was actually my solo band. And I'm not, I didn't start Soul Garage Experience because, you know, just trying to leave Supersonic Blues Machine and I'm looking at the solo career. Absolutely not. It's just that, as you can imagine, a band like Supersonic Blues Machine with all these like super high caliber musicians and stars playing in, it's not really an easy task to book that band and to put it on the road and to tour with it. I mean, we'll do it, but it requires a lot of work and a lot of time. We have to turn down a lot of invitations and a lot of requests.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, I bet.
Because, you know, the logistics of everybody. I mean, our singer and guitar player lives in Devon, UK. So next, and you know, even our record company was like, next time, find somebody that, you know, a little bit further away, maybe in India, if you want to, you know. So, you know, that makes things a little bit harder when it comes down to, we cannot just get together and play, you know, this weekend. Oh, shoot, we can go do this. No, that's definitely not that situation with Supersonic. However, I wanted to have something, an ensemble, a group of people with the same kind of attitude, the same kind of approach, but that was available whenever, you know, I was going to be available. And putting it all on me brings, you know, it takes a little bit the hassle of having this and that all the time. I mean, there is a bunch of my guys that are part of my core group that are, you know, some of my favorite musicians and dear friends of mine, Derek Day on guitar, or Stephen Perkins from Jane's Addiction, and, you know, the drummer of my band. And they know that they have first call no matter what, but they also know that if they're not around, I'm not going to turn down a show because they're not. And that's why we build a community where we do like an hour and a half, 2 hour shows with them, and then a bunch of other friends that are coming around. And this is something that I picked up from George Clinton. Sometimes they will go on stage in 5, and sometimes they go on stage in 25. You know,
interesting.
Yeah, and it keeps it fresh. It keeps it interesting. And actually, funny enough, that the final push for Soul Garage Experience was once again Robin Ford. We headlined a show with Supersonic Blues Machine in Kalamazoo Blues Festival. We're closing the night, and Robin was our guest. That particular night, Kenny Aronoff was not playing drums. He played the night before in Detroit, in Ann Arbor and stuff. But he was supposed, I mean, he had a contract to play with John Fogerty from 2 years earlier, and he could not get out of that commitment. And John didn't want to hear it. So we asked Stephen Perkins if he could sub for Kenny, and he came with us for a few days earlier so he could see how we were structuring the show. Of course, we rehearsed before leaving Los Angeles. And that night he was playing, you know, with us. At the end of the night, Robin comes to me and he's like, Fab, I really enjoyed tonight and everything, because he's actually, I gave him kind of like the car keys, and he was calling solos from everybody. He just changed things while we were playing. I mean, it was like really, really interesting thing. Right? It was like I don't know, a blues fusion. I don't know. I really don't know how to call it, but it was a very, very interesting live show. And at the end, and again, Robin said, I'm so used to you playing with Kenny and stuff, and you guys sound fantastic and blah, blah, blah. However, with Perkins, and Alex is actually our keyboard player with the Supersonic Blues Machine, but also plays with me in Soul Garage Experience, is a monster pianist. He's another Italian, but he doesn't play with me because he's Italian, but because of the way he plays. Just like me, he was... is a big funk guy and everything. I mean, it was musical director for Christina Aguilera, for Natalie Imbruglia, from Faith Evans, for Natalie Cole. His first gig was with Bobby Brown for 7 years.
Oh, wow.
And back then, a white boy from Italy playing clavi and key and piano with Bobby Brown back then, he was the only white guy in that. So you know that he had to have his funk down. And actually, when he left the band, Bobby was distraught. I mean, it's just like, dude, I ain't gonna find another one like you. And so we got that kind of, you know, that's where we're coming from musically. And Robin was telling me, you guys sound, you, Perkins, and Alex together sound like the Doors, but funky. So
Really?
you should consider doing something with these cats. And I'm like,
That's
so we're going back to Los
interesting.
Angeles. We're on the plane, and I talked to Perkins, but hey, why don't we jam next week and stuff? Just play some of that stuff. So yeah. So we started playing around. We gave ourselves a couple of different names. We got another guitar player involved with us, a phenomenal guitar player, and then now plays with Paul Stanley. Alfa Moreira, incredible Brazilian guitar player that I know since the mid 90s. And we started playing around town. We actually started to play covers from 60s, 70s, 80s, and even 90s.
Wow, okay.
But all rearranged to sound like a 60 funky psychedelic band from California.
Oh my goodness! Wow,
that's why
all kinds of things.
that's why the whole thing with Robin. It says, hey, if I wanted to keep faith to what Robin said, he says, like, we sound like the Doors funky. Well, let's just give him that, and the whole thing was just taking shape. And I had all these songs that I was preparing. Some of them were already recorded. Started tracking at some level that I was preparing for the next Supersonic Blues Machine record. But Chris Barras, our singer guitar player, like I was saying, he's from the UK, and he's our second singer guitar player. Before, our frontman was Lance Lopez, who was born in Louisiana, but is like as a Texas guy. Mm-hmm. And his music upbringing and everything was much more like mine. He used to play with blues bands, and he did the whole Chitlin circuit, since he was 14. So he knew inside out. He knew how to speak Elmore James as much as he knew how to play AC/DC.
Right.
So,
exactly.
We were like, music soulmates on that sense. And Chris is an amazing guitar player. He's an amazing singer. And we complete each other very well. But he's from the UK, and he comes from a different reality of blues rock. He comes from the blues rock of Gary Moore, Rory Gallagher, Cream, Pink Floyd.
I can see that in a sense. You're right. I can see that.
And it just, I guess it's, that's the place where you grow in, even though when you grow up in, and even if you do not want to, somehow you're still exposed to some realities. So I think some of the material that I had aside that I was working on so enthusiastically, I'm like, who the hell am I kidding? This is not stuff for kids. This is like me. This is not Supersonic. This is like Supersonic Fabrizio's machine. It's not, it's a different thing. So once again, I asked Perkins to come with me to the studio. We track a couple of those songs, and the way he was approaching the drums and all of that was way more in tune with those particular songs, and definitely was not Supersonic Blues Machine stuff. So I decided to say, okay, so you know what? This is what I'm going to be doing. We have the band and everything. Would you guys mind if I, hijack the whole thing and I make it my band? I mean, I'm not kicking anybody out, of course. I'm just saying, since I have the song, I have a program, I have the agents of, managements, we can do a bunch of things. And everybody was like, yeah. So we started working on it. And then, of course, the pandemic hit. But throughout last year, it was, a good learning curve on a bunch of things. And I never, to be honest with you, I never really bothered to learn how to sing. I was diagnosed with a rare kind of polyps and kind of like a defect of my vocal cord when I was 17 and a half.
Gosh.
And I was either, just to fix it, either I need to get a surgery, which back then was very challenging, taking the chance of possibly even losing my voice for real, or stop smoking and just deal with it, And that's what I did. So I never really got involved into the singing, or sure, did some BVs here and there, but never like, but in the last 6-7 years, I've been singing, even scratch vocals for the demos of all the songs that I've been writing, whether we're for Supersonic or for other stuff that we're doing. Wow. So I guess kind of like for necessity of work, I got closer, but never thinking, oh, I'm going to be performing this song live. So, it was always nonchalant. That's probably why I pulled it off, because I never thought of myself as a singer, because the moment, that's another lesson from Steve Lukather. You know what? You say, why I can do it every night and go up in there and sing it without every problem and blah, blah, blah. Well, because I don't think that I'm a singer. The moment that I realize that I'm a singer, then all the shit that comes of being a singer is going to come around,
And of course, besides juggling Soul Garage experience and also Supersonic Blues experience, what else can we expect from you in 2021 and beyond? Maybe like an offshoot of it, some completely different.
Actually, I'm working. During the pandemic, I finally got on my other big I have three huge passions in life. One is music, the other one is food. Oh, wow. No, just in cooking, and the third one is movies, visual videos. I mean, I've always been a man, and so I always produced video clips and all of it in terms of like the business of, or like as part of creating the 3D, but never behind the camera or in an editing room. And actually I started to do that. And I just joined forces with another fellow Milanese from Milan that lives here in Los Angeles that's got a very successful video production company. And kind of like got really heavy into video making and all of it. And actually, we're developing a couple of documentaries. Nice. I'm not at liberty, unfortunately, to disclose titles or anything like that. Because
fine. I mean, keep us on edge, which is good. So
next time we talk, I'll definitely let you in, because it's something we're really proud. I co-produced. I was one of the producer of the award-winning Sideman Long Road to Glory, that came out a few years ago, and I did the soundtrack, and I was one of the producer. And I think that kind of like it created a lot of interest, I would say, in the music movies world. And so we're given this kind of options, and we're working on it. So let's see what happens. And the other thing too, obviously, I cannot wait to go out and live and tour. So this is, like I was telling you earlier, it's already the third time that we're rebooking Supersonic Blues Machine Tour. And also now, of course, I'm going to have some shows with Soul Garage Experience. And in addition, as a last, I'm always been involved with charities. I do believe that we all have to do something good, and not only just, since we're already being blessed about being able to make a living doing what we love and not, it's a simple rock. I think that, it's the least that we can do to return the favor,
Exactly. Yes, exactly.
And get involved in a bunch of stuff. So I'm actively, working with Guitarist. Guitarist is a company that collects used strings from musicians.
Oh, wow.
Labeled. And then they create pieces of jewelry, and then they auction them out and stuff, and they raise money for a particular, a different type of charities. I mean, you can choose the charity that you want with them. And you got everybody from, guys from Guns N' Roses to Iron Maiden, all these people that do these things with them. So I'm working with them, but that doesn't really require any playing, other than the one that you do on the strings that then you give them. But the other two charities that I'm involved with, one is Guitar for Vets. Guitar for Vets is a beautiful initiative. It's been around for a while, where basically we're helping with music lessons and guitar lesson in this case that are going to expand to other instruments as well.
Wow.
given to veterans that they're affected by PTSD, I mean, post-traumatic stress disorder.
Mm-hmm.
And we find that music therapy is just actually the best and the most successful treatment for this, to the point where now most of the chapters of the Guitar for Vets around the nation, the country, are giving this lesson at VA centers or hospitals. I mean, it's been approved. Yes. I mean, being vetted by the government, you know. So, and that's one. And June actually is a very important month because it's the 21st Salute. That's the month where we collect gear and donation to obviously further the programs. And I'm always involved with them. We already did a bunch of different live shows. And the other one, it's my own charity. It was called Always at Home. Mm-hmm. One of the things that that really, I guess, affects me personally is the homeless situation, not only here in California, in Los Angeles, that it's insane, but, you know, throughout the country and also in the other part of the world as well, especially in the UK, in London. Oh my God, it's insane. And I know there's a lot of other people around the country that they like to poke California for whatever reason and just make it like an LA issue because of whatever we do here in Los Angeles. God knows. I mean, we're so bad that we create homeless, but it goes beyond that. This is actually a problem that it's our civilizations at large and the way our society is structured that it's not set up to fight that problem. Sure, I understand. And among some of the homeless, you have people that have some serious mental conditions and sometimes even drug problems. But trust me, I'm involved with this. I talk to people, I talk to activists, and we deal with companies. 70%, 80% of the homeless that you deal with, these are people that lost their job, or maybe lost a spouse or somebody else. They're meaning to support themselves.
Sick and hospital.
Exactly.
And
exactly.
lost their job. I've heard all kinds of stories, and not just California, but up in North Dakota where I'm at too, oil patch and everything. It's like, you know, one guy got hurt, spent so much time in the hospital. Next thing you know, couldn't pay rent and out in the streets. It's
exactly. So yeah, well, but that's not the fault of the person. That's not the fault of of anything else other than the way the system is structured. Because I mean, I've been traveling the world, and you know, to be honest with you, I never seen this anywhere else other than here, the richest country on the planet, and in the UK, which is the second richest country. Maybe not, but you know where I'm coming from with this. So that's something that affects me personally a lot, and I'm dealing with these people, and I know what's behind it. So we decided to do this thing and join forces with Upward Bound Home, which is a great charity here in Los Angeles that helps family that fall into, you know, distress. They bought buildings and hotels, and they restructure them to give temporary lodging and, I guess, accommodation to these families until they can get they can be back on their feet. So these are the only things. I mean, unfortunately, because of COVID, we have a couple of big events that we had prepared between now June and also for September that we might have to push forward towards the end of the year, because unfortunately, even though California opened up last week, but there's still a few things that are not clear in terms of what you can do and what you cannot do on locations, on facilities, and we cannot wait. You know, unfortunately, when you do shows, you need to start to talk about it, advertise, and do your work 6-7 months before that. You cannot wait, 2 weeks before that and then do it, even if it's a local event. So that's kind of like a bummer for me, because it's something that, we always want to do, and we do it every year. So, these are pretty much the things that I'm involved with and that you're going to expect from me next year.
And of course, we'll definitely have you back on, give us an update and more on collaborations and a lot more. We're here with Fabrizio, best known as Fab Grossi, here on the Mike Wagner Show. A very big thank you for your time. I mean, I learned a lot from you. It's amazing. I think we could have done this like, like maybe over pizza or something, or just have a brew, wine, whatever it is. It's like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm ready to have something with you. It's just amazing.
Well, and if you allow me, before we say bye, then I need to kind of like do a little plug.
Sure can.
We have a new single with Soul Garage Experience that is coming out this Friday, and is available on all on all digital platform. And this is in I would say in conjunction with the announcement of the actual release date of the full record. The full record is going to be out on September 10th. So we have a single coming out on Friday called Ain't No Giving Up. A great video together. So please, everybody, just, look out for it. YouTube, Spotify, and all of it. Just click us, like us, follow us. And if you want to get more information about Soul Garage Experience, you can go to www.soulgarageexperience.com. And on the social media, that's Soul Garage Fab, Soul Garage Fab, on Instagram, on Twitter, and on Facebook. That's where you can get all these informations. Please, again, join us, subscribe, stick around. We have a bunch of people coming around. We have a lot of good things, and everything is always positive. There's no bickering, there's no bitching. It's everything super friendly. We're a bunch of hippies, so there's no crazy stuff. I mean, crazy, but the good crazy.
And that's a good thing too. Once again, Fab, thank you for your time. You've been absolutely amazing. I mean, I learned a lot from you, man. Definitely have a part two as well too, and look forward to him soon. Do us a favor, keep us up to date. We definitely love to have you back, and don't forget to keep in touch, and looking forward to what you got. I mean, you've been absolutely amazing. Wish you all the best.
Thank you, Mike. Thanks, everybody. And be good. Be kind.